Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/entitled parent stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. Karen demands I let her pick me up. After that, am I the jerk for telling my former stepson the real reason I didn't see him much after the divorce? And after that, entitled dad causes trouble in a restaurant. Sweet kids beg him to stop. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen does not get to pick anyone up. But it looks so fun! So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. Karen demands I let her pick me up. Okay, so this happened yesterday and I'm still shook. Basically, our school had an award ceremony for our sports teams. Our school is well known for being very athletically competitive, going to states and regionals and such. Casting. We've got me. We've got best friends 1 and 2. We've got the embarrassed kid. He was really polite and I feel bad for him. We've got the entitled parent and we've got the office nurse. Please note, I'm 13 and I weigh 31 kilograms and I'm really super small. So after an excruciating amount of time sitting on concrete in my own world, everyone started to get up and take photos with family and friends with their medals and ribbons and stuff. Me and my friends found each other. Important to note, we were all standing sorta close to the kids receiving stuff, so we were easily spotted. And after a while of chatting, a super tall boy wearing like 4 ribbons walks up to me and awkwardly asks if he can pick me up. Not uncommon for short people to hear, because he's curious or something, I don't know. Anyways, this is how the conversation went. Embarrassed kid. Hey, I don't mean to be weird, but can I pick you up? Me. Oh, sorry, I usually say yes, but I have a bit of a health problem. Entitled parent. What do you mean, no? She put emphasis on the O for some reason. My sweet boy just wants to lift you. It's not inappropriate. So I currently have a mystery infection in my lungs. I've been in and out of the hospital and doctors are stumped by it. Anyway, being lifted or laying with my head lower than my legs stops me from breathing, and occasionally it just gets really bad, even when I'm not doing anything, even when I'm sleeping. And because I'm really skinny, I can feel my bones moving on each other, can even hear it sometimes. So I get cramped pretty easily. I'm perfectly healthy, I just have a really fast metabolism. Me. Oh no, it's not that. I just have a lung problem right now, and that— Oh, stop whining. You're lying, and I know it. Embarrassed kid. Mom, please just stop it. It's okay. She just said no. No, this spoiled little jerk should let you pick her up. It's not a big ask. She then reaches for me, in which my friends intervene. Best friend 1. She's not lying. She's been in the hospital. Plus, it's none of your business. Best friend 2. Yeah, you're literally trying to grab someone. Entitled mom. This lady wouldn't let anyone finish their sentences. Oh, don't give me that. I know she's lying. If she was so sick, she wouldn't be here. And then this jerk literally pushed past my absolutely amazing friends and grabs me by the bottom of my ribs. Now, this may be okay for other people, but like I mentioned, lung problems and weight problems. So when she grabbed my ribs, she grabbed my ribs. There was a thin layer of skin between her and my bone. She then lifts me up, in which I flail in agony. God, the pain. Not only was she crushing me, I couldn't breathe. Karen. See? You're lying. Stop screaming. I'm not hurting you. And that's all I remember before passing out. Other than my friends losing their minds screaming for her to drop me, and literally an entire hall of people turning to look at my bony flesh sack flailing in the air. Anyway, I wake up with the office nurse leaning over me with my spacer, the mask they used to give me my Ventolin, and the crazy entitled parent in cuffs for assault on me, etc. Turns out, my lungs literally stopped for around 5 seconds and I turned completely blue. Anyway, I get tested in the back of the ambo and had a fun talk with the paramedics, telling them about this crazy jerk. They laughed and said I should press charges. I am. That lady could have really hurt me. So yeah, I'm in the hospital right now. Turns out I have one dislocated rib. The bottom rib where she grabbed me got pushed under the rest, which is why my lungs stopped for a bit. I don't know what's gonna happen. We will charge her 100%, but I'm gonna try and avoid being too involved, because it's midterm right now and I need to get through high school. Would you let Karen pick you up if she asked, or not? Please let us know. Your head's so big I probably couldn't pick you up if I tried. Am I the jerk for telling my former stepson the real reason I didn't see him much after the divorce? I was married to my ex-wife for 9 years. I came into my stepson's life when he was 4, and my wife and I divorced when he was 13. It's been 7 years since the divorce. I've since remarried and have 2 kids with my current wife. I raised my stepson, I'll be calling him JT, as my own, and I loved being his father. We were very close, and I wanted to adopt him, but was constantly blocked by his biological dad, who's a real jerk. The divorce between me and my ex-wife was messy. We married too young, and looking back, she was a toxic and negative force in my life. I also didn't know it then, but she is also bipolar, which was undiagnosed and untreated when we were together, and it explains a lot of the behavior I witnessed. I wanted to stay in my JT's life since I basically helped raise him, but my ex refused to let me see him and threatened to tell him lies about me if I pursued any legal routes for visitation. At the time, I was newly laid off and unable to afford a good lawyer. I really regret not fighting harder / calling her bluff, but I was afraid she'd turn him against me or even lie to the police and get me arrested for something I didn't do. JT and I reconnected last year. He's 20 now and living on his own and in college, for engineering at that. We've been playing catch up and he's met my wife and one of my daughters. I've given him some things for his apartment, etc. He eventually asked me why I didn't stick around after his mom and I split. I told him pretty point blank, "Your mom made sure I couldn't." I didn't go into detail with the threats or why we split up in the first place, but I let him know she had strong-armed me into being no contact. JT was understandably furious. Obviously, I didn't expect his mom to have told him the truth, but I didn't realize how in the dark he'd been. I got a call from my ex, I have the same number as I always have, with her cussing me out for slandering her to her son and talking to him in general. This is the first I've heard from her in 5 years, by the way. She apparently hadn't known JT reached out to me. I told her to never contact me again and that her son's a grown man and can do as he wishes. I've deleted her number and talked to JT, who confirmed that he confronted his mom and they fought. He's clearly really upset that she lied to him for so long and feels really betrayed by her. I feel terrible, and I'm wondering if maybe honesty or full honesty wasn't the best policy in this situation. I don't want to cause rifts in a family, even if it's my ex. She and I have a bad history, but I know she loves her son. Well, what do you think? Did OP do anything wrong or not? Please let us know.
The only thing he did wrong was her. Get her some Neosporin for that burn.
Entitled dad causes trouble in a restaurant. Sweet kids beg him to stop. So I was out with my family at a restaurant. It was a well-liked and highly reviewed Chinese restaurant. This story is short but sweet. Cast. We've got entitled dad. We've got sweet kids, his 2 daughters. We've got restaurant manager and the waitress. My family and I were set eating our food when entitled parent and his sweet kids are seated a few tables away. Entitled dad seemed pretty friendly, asking staff questions about the place and having general conversations with them. They order their food arrives and they start eating. While they're eating, a fly lands on entitled dad's food. The fly didn't come from the kitchen, it wasn't on the plate or in the food. It came through the entrance and was flying around the restaurant. Entitled dad was complaining about it to sweet kids who were laughing and joking about it. Entitled dad says, "It's really not funny, girls. It's a sign of poor hygiene. Do I look like I'm laughing? This is serious." Entitled dad calls a waitress over and says, "A fly just landed on my food. What are you going to do about it? It's put me right off my food." Waitress asks if it was in the food when it came out of the kitchen, and entitled dad said, "No, it just landed on it." Waitress stood there, unsure of what she was supposed to do about it. She offered to take the food back to the kitchen and get a replacement, but he said no. Entitled dad continued to complain to her. Side note, I work in hospitality, and there's literally nothing you can do about a fly that comes in through the entrance to the building when a customer comes in. I genuinely don't know what he was expecting of her. Eventually, waitress goes to get the restaurant manager, and even he didn't know what to do. He apologized, but there wasn't really anything he could do about it besides offer him more food. Sweet kids were still laughing at this point, and entitled dad was telling them off because of how serious it was. Eventually, entitled dad loses his temper and says, "You know what? It doesn't matter. I'll just eat it," or something along those lines. The manager and waitress walked away. Entitled dad is still complaining to sweet kids, and he doesn't touch any more of his food. Sweet kids are still happily eating. Entitled dad forces the sweet kids to leave their food and leave the restaurant. He asks for the bill. Waitress, £35, please. Entitled dad, "Really? Do you really think you should charge me that much when I didn't eat the food?" Waitress again stood there, not knowing what to do. They continued telling him he had to pay 35 pounds, and Entitled Dad continued refusing. Entitled Dad was close to shouting, and restaurant manager and waitress were trying to resolve it. Sweet kids were literally almost crying by this point, shouting, "Dad, stop! Just pay the bill so we can leave," and things like that. Entitled Dad says, "Go wait outside, girls. I'm not paying 35 pounds for food I didn't even eat." This went on for literally about an hour. Entitled Dad then goes, "I'm not paying 35 pounds. I'll pay 10 pounds and nothing more." Then slams his money on the counter and leaves. Both restaurant manager and waitress are in complete shock, and I'm ranting to my family by this point because I worked as a waitress and felt terrible for the staff. What was Entitled Dad expecting them to do? They can't stand at every door and window and get every fly that tries to enter. It wasn't in any way their fault. An Entitled Dad refused to have a new meal brought out. Manager came over to us and apologized, and all my mom said was, "What a jerk." And this made manager and waitress smile a bit. They were comforted by the fact that we agreed with them and thinking Entitled Dad was out of order. It was a lot more dramatic than it sounds here, I promise. Am I the jerk for saying no to my nephew using my late son's college fund instead? My wife and I, 36 female, 37 male, lost our son Ryan 3 years ago when he was 11. Before he was born, my wife's parents gave us a large sum to start up on his college fund, and we've been putting money on the side for years so that he can use it once he went to college. Unfortunately, he never got the chance, and we haven't touched that money since. It's taken time, but with a lot of therapy, we made peace with our loss. We've even started talking about trying to have another baby next year. My sister and her family came to our house Sunday morning, and we were talking about my nephew Steven now being in his last year of high school. It brought up questions about what his plans were after graduating, and he said college, though he's not sure what he wants to study. When my nephew wasn't around, my sister mentioned that they've been worrying about how they'll afford college for him. His GPA is average, and he doesn't do any activities outside of his studies, so they say they don't think he'll have much of a chance with scholarships. He'll have to rely on student loans and financial aid. My sister mentioned Ryan's college fund and how it would be a huge help if Steven got that for himself. We were caught off guard and didn't know what to say. With talks about having a baby, we decided we wouldn't touch that money for now and had to tell her no. We explained we weren't sure if we want to use that money for future baby expenses or if maybe that will be our child's college fund to use in the future. My sister became upset and felt it wasn't fair we were keeping this money all for a hypothetical child when my nephew is an actual living person who will benefit from it. She said we won't struggle financially with a new kid since we both earn a good income and we can always save more money, which is true, but there's no guarantee we'll always be making the same income with the state of the world, and at least that money is there now. She kept pushing this to the point where it was becoming an argument. What struck a nerve was when my sister said, "It's not like anyone else is using that money right now." I don't know why it bothered me. I suppose it's the way she casually mentioned my son no longer being with us. My wife was growing uncomfortable with the whole thing, so I firmly said no, and that's the end of it. There was tension after, and my sister was in a sour mood until they left. I later received a message from her later on stating how selfish she thinks we are being, and she thought we would help Steven since we claim to love him so much, yet won't help him provide for his future. I didn't want to get into it with her and decided not to respond, but I still keep reading her text. Are we in any way being jerks here? We do love Steven and want him to succeed, but we had already agreed that money would be used for our future kid. It's all very conflicting and hard not to feel guilty over our choices. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you give your sister the money or not? Please let us know.
No, but I'd give her a punch in the face, I'll tell you that much.
I don't work here at the moment. Important to the story. I took some time off to work on a novel I've been writing. Seemed like the time to do it with everything going on right now and me having no immune system. I worked for a towing company. Everything is appointment-based where I worked because of what's going on. That makes sense, right? Apparently not. I've been off work for about 4 months now. I help with paperwork here and there, but that's sent to me via email so I don't have to leave my house. It's a good system. I finally had to leave my house. I realized that I forgot one of my flash drives at the office. It's the one I would add random notes to for the book that I'm writing. I stopped at the office today to pick up my flash drive. It's hidden. I wasn't about to call and be like, "Hey, can you go into the storage room, move the first aid kit, pull out the box of envelopes, reach in and grab my flash drive?" So I did it myself. I walked in, put in my codes to get to the back, and went about my business. My boss knew I was coming in to get something, saw me, and said, "Hey, hope you're doing well," and went back to work. Just as I stepped out of the storage room with my flash drive in hand, I hear it, the screech of an entitled jerk. She was losing her mind because both the people who could help her were taking calls and couldn't just step off the phone to help this person. She also hadn't booked an appointment because the appointment sheet is on the door as you head into the back part of the office. I proceeded to take the side exit and disappear, so I thought. I made it through the shop where all the trucks are parked and left through a different door. This lady saw me leave through the side door, bolted outside, and literally ran to the door I left through, screaming that I need to help her. I just looked at her crazy self and said no. I continued walking to my car with her following me, screaming and screaming. I should also mention that there are some puddles in the yard because winter came and left in the span of a few days, and it hasn't all dried up yet. She stepped in a mud puddle and fell over, screaming louder than before. I turned to see if she was okay, and she had alerted a few of the drivers with her banshee scream, who also came to check on her. When the drivers were coming to help, she started screaming about how I had pushed her down. One of the drivers went and got the boss. He came out, asked what happened, and stuck to her story about how I had pushed her and I needed to be fired. My boss looked her dead in the eye. "She doesn't work here, and you don't get to dictate who gets fired here. Sorry." She wanted the cops called immediately. My boss asked if she was sure. She screamed, repeating the word, "Yes." He asked again if she was sure while gesturing to the 4 cameras in the yard. She legit turned white, got up, went to her car, and left. My boss busted out laughing the second she peeled out of the yard. He also told me to have a good rest of my day and to call if I needed anything. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she's the reason she's not invited to her daughter's wedding? I, male 43, have been with my wife for 4 years. I have a 19-year-old stepdaughter. She struggled a lot during her parents' divorce, and she hasn't gotten therapy till I came into the picture. That's when I noticed how depressed she was. She used to yell and argue all the time. She was harsh and hostile towards me. But that changed when I started fixing her problems one by one, and it turned out she needed healing and being heard and understood. We now have one of the best relationships I have in my life. I appreciate the effort she's made to be who she is today. She told me and her mom that she was going to get married to her boyfriend who she knew from high school. Her mom got mad at her for wanting to get married at this age and while in college, even though my wife got married for the first time at a young age and had rough times trying to make a living and raising a kid. She lashed out at her daughter, telling her to drop it, but my stepdaughter called her selfish and controlling and that she shouldn't try to enforce her opinions on her and decide when she should get married. Her mom gave her an ultimatum and said she'd disown her if she went through with her decision. My stepdaughter stopped talking to her ever since, and my wife said that from now on, she doesn't have a daughter. I thought that was too much for my stepdaughter. I stayed in contact with her, and after a few weeks, my stepdaughter sent me a wedding invitation. I gotta say, I felt a little hesitant thinking about my wife's reaction, but my stepdaughter told me that she felt hurt and alone as her wedding approaches when she's supposed to be happy and excited. She even cried when she spoke with me on the phone last week. My wife found out and lashed out at me because the invitation had my name only and berated me for wanting to go to support my stepdaughter and was upset that my daughter ignored her and didn't even call her to invite her to the wedding. I flat out told my wife that she should have handled the situation better instead of driving her daughter away like that. But my wife got upset and accused me of supporting my stepdaughter's callousness and selfishness and told me not to go as long as she isn't going. I called her unreasonable, and clearly she's mad at me for not calling my stepdaughter and berating her for not inviting her mother after she disowned her. Well, who do you agree with? OP or his wife? Please let us know.
Some of you guys writing these stories need to stop marrying such Karens.
Am I the jerk for refusing to cook for my boyfriend's daughter even though she had a breakdown? I've been dating this guy, Mark, who has a 14-year-old kid, Jennifer, for a while now. I've only met her a couple of times, so we aren't that close. I started seeing her often after I moved in with Mark, during his custody time. We get along fine, and I think we're bonding well. There's just one issue. Since I grew up in poverty, I hate wasting food. Jennifer has an issue with food. I'm not talking about being a little cranky when hungry. She would cry and scream and even break things if dinner gets delayed by half an hour. During her last visit, work was very hectic for me and Mark. Mark had to go to the office while I worked from home. Since I knew how busy I would be end of day and how Jennifer gets, I woke up early to prepare breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I informed her the same. End of day, I am in so many meetings and calls, and Jennifer barged in 15 minutes past her dinner time and told me serve her dinner. I reminded her that the dinner was in the fridge and all she had to do was heat it up. She comes back 15 minutes later and told me that she threw the food away and now she wanted me to give her a snack for the time being and make her something else. I told her that I'm not going to do that and then locked myself inside the study. I could hear her screaming and crying and I refused to give in. Once my work was done, 2 hours later, she was still crying. She never heated the dinner. She tried it cold, didn't like it, threw the entire dinner for 3 away, and then started demanding me for a freshly cooked dinner. She begged me to cook her something, and I told her that I already did cook her something and that she threw it away. I told her she can either cook for herself or wait until her father comes home and he can cook for her. I went to bed hungry as I was so tired. Next day, Mark told me that he didn't get home until midnight and she was still sobbing when he arrived. Although he agrees that Jennifer was acting entitled, he also says that I should have just cooked her something once my work was done, as I knew about her food issues instead of letting her cry for hours. I got upset and told him that I'm not cooking for either of them anymore. Am I the jerk here? Edit. She isn't diagnosed with anything. What would you have done? Would you have cooked something else for her or not? Please let us know.
Yeah, I would have cooked her a knuckle sandwich. The nerve of that kid.
Customer threatens to sue me because he decided to jump a turnstile. Quick backstory. So when I was just out of high school, I worked in a small liquor store in a high-risk area. Other than the pay, the job was pretty good, and the manager loved me, took my side in basically anything because I was usually right, and he had a policy that if customers are being a problem, boot them. So it's a cold winter night, and we're about to lock up. I'm mopping the floors while my coworker is closing out her till, and here they come. Our cast. We've got me, we've got my coworker, and we've got these 2 valued customers, 1 and 2. As I'm putting my mop away, coworker tells me I should come watch this on the security camera. There's 2 guys running at the store, full-on sprint, trying to make it in before we lock up in 5 minutes. My rule is simple. If you get in before I lock the doors, I'll serve you. But if you take longer than 10 minutes after close, I'll ask you to leave with no purchase because it's after 1 a.m. and I want to get some sleep. So customer 1 comes barreling into the store, and instead of walking in like a normal person, he decides to try and jump the turnstile at the entrance to stop shoplifters from trying to run out of the front door. And lo and behold, as he runs past the wet floor sign directly in front of the turnstile, he slips and only makes it halfway and collides directly with the arm of the turnstile tip to tip. His buddy helps pick him up, laughing at him, and they start browsing. Coworker goes outside and locks the doors and finishes up closing until my till is the only thing left to do. Lo and behold, their 10 minutes are up and they haven't made a single choice yet. I pipe up. Hey, you guys, the store closed 10 minutes ago. I need you to pick whatever you want now or leave. Well, customer 1 takes offense to me telling him that he has to leave the store and replies, "You know I got hurt on your property, so I can take however long I'd like, and you should be giving me everything I want for at least half off, if not free, unless you want me to sue you." Him and customer 2 started laughing and walking around joking about what they should help themselves do. Coworker looks at them like they are idiots and tells them that they can get the heck out of the store right now or she will call the police and have them removed. Well, once again, customers 1 and 2 don't like being told what to do and walk up to the counter snickering and ask how we would like going to court. I look at them, tired, and tell them that right now they have 2 choices. 1, they buy something and leave now or we call the police. Coworker already has the phone all ready to go and that we don't care if they sue us because we don't own the store and that his injury was self-inflicted. He ignored the wet floor sign and tried to jump the turnstile when he could have just walked through. Customer 1. Well, can I at least get a discount? Customer 2 at this point realizes that we are serious as he grabs the closest 12-pack and says, "Okay, we'll get this and leave." So here we are, 20 to 30 minutes after closing and finally get to go home. Those 2 never did bother to come back or sue us, but I still made sure my manager got all the footage ready just in case. Am I the jerk for telling my grandparents not to bother visiting me and my baby after they have ignored me for the last 28 years? I'm the first grandchild of my grandparents. They've always lived in a different state to me, and I've met them a handful of times. They've never really made an effort to be involved in my life. I've never received as much as a card from them. I've never asked for anything, and I don't expect anything. I'm not sure why they haven't been involved in my life, but I'm 28 now, and I don't care about it. When I became pregnant earlier in the year, my dad said I should call and tell them. So I did, because I love my dad and thought it would be nice, but I wish that I hadn't. During the phone call, she said, word for word, "Sorry I haven't been in touch. You know how things are." Well, no, I don't actually. But yeah, thanks for ignoring me for 28 years. When my son was born and I announced it, I got a message from my grandmother. It said, "Congratulations, etc." She complained about her hip and said they would come and visit as soon as possible. I basically gray-rocked her and said that it wasn't necessary. If they were to visit, I would prefer it to be sometime next year, as I'm trying to establish a routine with my baby, and of course everything going on. She didn't reply to me, and then on my birthday last week, she sent me another message saying they were coming in January and to hug the baby for us. Now, I understand that they're excited, but I don't appreciate people who have had literally nothing to do with me expecting to now have a part in my life simply because I've had a baby. It feels fake. It feels like I'm not enough, and like all they care about is that I've made them great-grandparents. And quite frankly, I don't care much about them. I had a really rough upbringing, and they know that. They never checked on me or asked me if I was okay or needed anything. I don't feel obligated to have a relationship with them. My dad has said the way that they've ignored me is BS. Should I just let them visit? Note that they would not be staying with me. So, am I the jerk for telling them to not visit me? ETA, I agree it's confusing that I called them in the first place. I felt kind of pressured from my dad to do it. He had asked me and then kept pestering me about it. I did it without really thinking it through and the potential consequences. I never expected her to want to visit. I regret calling them. I have 2 younger siblings from my dad's remarriage. They've gotten slightly more attention than me growing up. If they came to visit, they would have the opportunity to see them as well. When I was born, they told my father that my mother was a jerk who would burn in heck and that they hated my name. Give me that charger. So I have an orange and black portable charger that I've had for 4 years now, and that thing has saved my life quite a few times. It has 4 USB ports and a high-powered light, so it's pretty great. The thing about mine, however, is that my port closest to the light doesn't work. I don't know why, overuse I think, so I use the other ones. Enter Entitled Mom and Entitled Kid. I'd seen them around a bit, but had never talked to them, which is unusual as I live in quite a small community. But now I know a lot about them. For context, this was in a local cafe I frequent on the weekends. A family-owned, everyone is welcome kind of deal. Well, entitled parent and entitled kid enter and immediately spot me sitting down, sipping my tea. Yes, I'm Scottish. We drink a lot of tea. And charging my phone with the charger. They almost run at me, and they say, in the worst Ned or idiotic accent imaginable, "Entitled Mom." "Excuse me, what is that?" Points at charger. Me. "Oh, it's a portable charger. It's like a power outlet for entitled parent cutting me off." "I know that. I meant, can we use it?" Me, wondering how "what's that" translates to "can we use it?" Sorry, but I don't let people use my things usually. Why do you need it?" I'm thinking that if their phones are dead, they can use my charger to get them up and running. Her phone was at 47%. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. Me. "Sorry, your phone doesn't need charging. It has 47%. "Oh, come on. It isn't full. Give me the charger." She reaches for it, as does the kid, but I pull it away and stow it in my bag. Me. "Sorry, I need to go now." I quickly sip up the last drop of tea and head to the counter to pay. I see them following, so tell the worker, who I'm friends with, about them before I get there. She has also seen me with my charger. I leave just as they get to me, still clutching my bag, and head for home. I get home and realize that my charger isn't in my bag. I knew what had happened. They stole it when they came to the counter. I'm bummed, but have a smaller spare, so decided to go back to the cafe to see if I somehow left it. I arrive, and amazingly, entitled parent and entitled kid are sitting there using my charger out in the open. I calmly approach my friend and let her know, and she's in on it. Me, going up to entitled parent and entitled kid, who look really scared. "Oh, thank goodness, you found my charger. I knew I had left it here. Thank you so much." Entitled mom. This is mine. Go away, weirdo." Me, realizing she isn't going down without a fight. "Oh, okay. I can prove it's mine." I call my friend over like a stranger and tell her the story. Me. Is there anything wrong with this charger, miss? Entitled Mom, confused.
No, it's brand new. Got it today. Go away. I want to be compensated for this intrusion.
Wow, she's dumb. Me. The charger nearest the light doesn't work on mine. Can we try this one? Entitled parent now tries to excuse herself to the toilet, realizing she's being found out. It fails, and she is forced to show that, indeed, the port doesn't work. Long story short, I get my charger back, and she is barred for a week, even though she apparently wasn't local, just on travels in the area, so probably thought she could grab and go with the charger. Me, 1, entitled parent and entitled kid, 0. My HOA complaint broke up an entitled mom's marriage. This happened a few years ago, but I still think about it. After being blessed with great neighbors over the years, I started taking it for granted. Then Luna, her 4 dogs, all the same breed, and family, 2 teens and a husband, moved in the house next door. It started off well enough. Luna was friendly and the kids and husband seemed nice, but she soon decided that the best place for her dogs to go potty was my backyard. I didn't agree, and after suffering in silence for a few weeks, I'm not very confrontational. I finally told her that my backyard wasn't her personal dog park. When they got home from work, they would let their dogs loose to go running in my backyard, to play and go potty. One day, I happened to catch them and came out on my patio to tell them to cut it out. The dogs turned around and started running towards me while barking aggressively. Fortunately, her husband called them off before the little ankle biters got to me. And it wasn't just the dog that liked to hang out in my backyard. Luna liked to walk around my backyard while talking on her phone. One of the things I like about my house is the privacy. It backs to the woods, so I don't have a lot of curtains on my back windows and doors. But since Luna liked walking around my yard, I was forced to curtail my habit of cleaning while not dressed. And it was creepy. Once, after it had snowed, I realized that someone had walked up to my back patio and had been peeping in my French doors. Not long after, someone left a gift of poo on my front porch welcome mat. Geez, I wonder who did that. But then, Luna seemed to want to repair our rather rocky relationship and asked me what time I got off work. We could do drinks and hang out. I thought, whatever. So I told her, but no get-together ever materialized. I realized later that she just wanted to know what time I got home from work. What she didn't know was that I sometimes worked at home. On one of those days, I caught her once again letting her dogs loose in my yard, so I took a photo and sent it to the HOA. I think she was also sneaking her dogs into my other neighbor's fenced backyard. The ramifications were swift. That complaint was the straw that broke the camel's back. The marriage was already on shaky ground, and the husband was tired of her and her dog hoarding. I only saw 4 dogs at a time, but there were more. I didn't notice because they all looked alike. The next thing I knew, she and the dogs had moved back to South America. The kids went to live with relatives/college, and the husband was acting like someone who won the lottery. He always seemed somewhat grumpy before, but after she left, he was smiling and friendly. Then he bought a Harley, got a girlfriend, and proceeded to rid the house of copious amounts of urine-stained carpets. He was eventually evicted from the house. Yes, they were renters, because owners were sick of the complaints and fines and decided to move back in. Luna apparently had a gift for upsetting the neighbors on my block. The weird thing is that there were a couple of vacant lots and a dog park less than a block away, but apparently her neighbors' yards were the best place to take her dogs. This video that just popped up on the screen, please come watch it next. I guarantee you will love it.
And if you join as a channel member today, we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And to have us record a special message of whatever you'd like, just come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.